Hello everyone, I'm Professor Gary Hunter, and it's a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm glad you're watching this video, which means you're probably considering or you have already enrolled in Business 400, which is Marketing and Sales Consultancy. So the course itself is going to be an interesting course. It's a great course if you're thinking about kind of transitioning. You're at that stage. This is a great kind of finishing course for your undergraduate program in marketing or business, and it will help you a lot to kind of transition from kind of traditional courses to the actual workforce. So a number of you have, of course, have done work, internships, those kind of things over the during your college years and stuff. So I'm sure you're kind of ready for that. This course is going to be different in the sense of it's basically going to have you do projects and be very much project centered basically on trying to do projects with clients so that you'll work with those different clients to solve some real world business problem that they have. And the course, that means though that the course is a little less structured than a lot of the courses that you've had structured, in the sense of the projects aren't currently existing. The projects are ideas that companies have or that clients have that will be working with us through the course, and we'll be working with you on different teams. So different teams will be doing different projects this semester, and you'll actually scope out the project. Scoping basically means kind of defining kind of what the project is, and then propose that project to a company that's working with Ole Miss and working with us in this course. And that company was basically going to work as your client on a consulting project. So you'll get a chance to get your hands dirty, roll your sleeves up, and get involved with a different company to help them to kind of solve different problems. The companies are interested in hiring Ole Miss grads, so if you haven't already lined up a job, this could be a great opportunity for you to make a great impression with these companies. They're great companies and great places. Would be great places to go to work post-graduation. But even if you've already got a job and that's not kind of the interest in the course, this course will be great in kind of helping you develop a skill set and a repertoire that would be of interest to different companies. So without, that's kind of a quick overview of the course and my quick 2-minute or so pitch on the class and why it could be good and what the prospective audience for the course is. I want to go into some details now on the syllabus to kind of preview the syllabus so you got some idea of what the syllabus is all about. Okay, so as I pull up the syllabus, you'll notice the syllabus you should say first class. Basically meaning this is the first class that we've taken, or this is the first class. As of the first class is when the syllabus is basically dated. And the first class date is 1/19. So the videos are going to be done a couple of days probably before that. So you may be watching this even before the 19th, but the intent is to kind of say this is kind of where we're starting. This is our first syllabus. There have been some drafts. I've posted some drafts. If you use one of those drafts to pull the course pack, you're fine. It's exactly the same course pack. Or to pull the required textbook, it's exactly the same textbook. So none of that has changed. I have changed some of the details within the syllabus, and I'm going to kind of preview some of those details so that you've got an idea of where the course sits. Okay, so my contact information is at the very top of the syllabus, so you can see in this area my contact information and what basically is going on there and how to get in touch with me. You can send an email to me. That's the best way to reach me. I'll respond to email within 24 hours. If I don't respond within 24 hours, all you have to do is resend it by doing a reply again or re-forward it to me again. Reply all will get it there. Just put a dot. Period means that I basically missed that in those 24 hours. I'm trying not to get those, so I'm trying to be very responsive. But it will be within like a 24-hour period. I'm not always on my phone and not always at my PC, but I will try to respond as promptly as possible to your query. Make sure you let me know in those emails that you are a current student, and that will help me to be even more responsive. Okay, so the course format is kind of what the next part of the syllabus goes through. And the course format, this is kind of an important part to talk about because it's relevant to the COVID era. The course format is basically set up to be synchronous on Tuesdays and asynchronous on Thursdays. So that may not make sense, but in terms of the content is asynchronous on Thursday. That means that we're not actually going to have class meetings on Thursday mornings, but you may end up doing like team meetings or client meetings on Thursday morning. So you want to save that time because basically everybody who enrolled in the class has those 2 slots of time available on Tuesday and Thursday. From the class start time to the class finish time, of course, which is also shown here on the syllabus in the next part from 9:30 to 10:45. So that 9:30 to 10:45 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you want to leave open. I'm not planning on doing things on Thursday morning in terms of class content, but you should plan on like your team will be available, and you'll find out who your team is a little bit later. So you want to reserve those 2 blocks when you're doing your schedule. Just do your schedule as so it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, but recognize we're not actually going to meet in a classroom on Thursdays. That brings me back to the format. I want to talk a little more about the format, so I'm going to go back up to that part and talk for a second about it, because what I'm trying to do is I'm very sensitive. I have a son who's actually a graduating senior, like many of you guys are. If you're in the situation where you have to have this course to get to meet your graduation requirements, I'm going to figure out a way to work with you. So in terms of if you're remote and you're not going to be able to come back to Ole Miss, I'm going to try to sort some way to work with you. And I'm going to ask, hopefully, that your teammates, that some other people will be in the same situation, or if they're not in that situation, they'll be willing to work with you through Zoom as well. Ideally, you'll be in person, and ideally, you'll be able to come to class. So that's the best setup, because some of this is more in-person kind of dialogues and some of those kind of interactions that you'll have with your teammates, and that may be easier to do, but you can still do your team meetings via Zoom. So we're still in the pandemic situation. So you may be doing Zoom meetings, and Zoom may be with us forever in terms of team meetings. It's definitely a bigger part of the workforce and the environment that you're going into. A lot of companies are using Zoom for a lot of different meetings that they may not have used Zoom for in the past. And even post-pandemic, the functionality, the efficiencies that companies get out of being able to meet through video, and the time savings they get by not taking travel time and stuff like that. Zoom is going to be a part of your business life post-pandemic. So getting good at kind of doing meetings on Zoom and interacting digitally is a good skill. So this class is set up to be basically a hybrid class, and hybrid classes, as you probably know by now, means that about half the classes are designed to be in person, the other classes are designed to be online. So the online portion will be asynchronous, and what that basically means is that the course will have some videos that are associated with it, much like this video that you can watch on your own time whenever it kind of fits your schedule before deadlines. There's typically deadlines that you're supposed to watch the videos prior to, and there's the course is also, as I get into it, is going to have a lot of content that's on video that's more part of your expertise. So if you're thinking about a consulting role and what consulting is, you'll know that expertise is a big component of that, and your expertise is what you need to do. So the class is really kind of more about the consulting part, but also kind of leveraging what you've already learned in marketing and sales. So the prerequisite for the class is the Principles of Marketing class. So you should have had the Principles of Marketing class. If you've also had a sales class, that's even better, so that helps you some. If you haven't had those, then there's going to be a lot of videos that you can reference. You don't have to watch all those videos and know all the material that's in those classes. The videos are basically videos from an MBA marketing class that I've taught in the past, as well as from like marketing science, MS classes. So a lot of the videos are from like graduate level classes, and some of those we'll actually have in the syllabus. Very few of them will be kind of part of the syllabus and required, but others will basically be reference for the different projects that you may have, and I may call those out or point those to bring those to your attention, or include them as part of what you're reviewing for a particular week as we get into the syllabus, and that will all be spelled out. What's required week to week will be spelled out in detail on the course website. So the course website will be set up much like an asynchronous class, so you can follow the checklist of what you need to do from week to week and know that you've done the tasks that you needed for that week. There will be some ambiguity that you have to work through in terms of the projects, and we'll talk about how to kind of do all of that kind of work as we go into the course. Okay, so that's a lot on course format, but a lot of that is necessary because of the COVID and those kind of things. So please send me an email if you've got any questions about the format or your situation, and you're concerned about, are you going to be able to do the class, are you going to be able to complete it, anything like that. And I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. There is a cap on the size of the class, primarily because we have planned like team meetings, so the class size will be somewhat restricted based on how many people we can physically get into a room. So that's got some of the restrictions. This is the first time the course has been offered at Ole Miss, so we are reaching out to the business community to kind of work with them the first time, and we do hope that we can deliver some value to that business community, and that it's a win-win for you in terms of understanding what they do, and it's a win for them in terms of like getting some of your insights on the business. So expertise is kind of part of that. Okay, so a few more logistics before I get into the class. In terms of office hours, I'm going to send you out a a survey, a link to a survey that you can complete to give me some of the times that you're available. We can meet and stuff like that. You can set up different times or different meetings so that we can Zoom and talk. And I particularly imagine the way this course is set up that your teams will want to do a number of different Zoom meetings over the course, so I can help kind of coach you through those. So at times I'll probably require those different Zoom meetings so that we can talk through your projects, and I can help you kind of coach you through some of the complexity that you'll have in doing these different consulting projects. Okay, so this is a consultative selling is also kind of a component. So whether you're doing consulting is done a lot of times externally, so that's typically what people think of. You think of consultants as being external advisors to a company on the issues or the concerns that they have. Consulting also plays a role internally. Sometimes people are working in specialist roles, or even the internships you may have had in the past for companies. You may work in more kind of a consultative role. Another way that consulting works is in selling. So many salespeople for excellent, effective organizations use consultative selling, which is basically where the salesperson works in a consulting kind of role to try to advise buyers on the best way to kind of use different products or to manage their categories or to integrate and succeed in their business model. So there's more kind of a partnering type of model when you get into consultative selling roles. One other thing that is important is this is as the next section we'll kind of talk some about, we're getting into kind of a gig economy. So if you haven't heard of the gig economy is this idea of an economy where a lot of us are paid to do different gigs. You may just do temporary work for companies instead of just working full time and always doing the same sorts of things. Figuring out some gig or something that you do really well, where you have really good expertise, is maybe a big part of your business career. So projecting out, learning how to survive and function well in the gig economy, a lot of that's going to depend on some of the baseline foundational skills that we're going to talk about in this class, which are going to be more consulting skills. So it should be very helpful to you, almost irrespective of what business career you're pursuing. This should help you to be more resilient. You've heard about resiliency, and it should help you to be more adaptive to the different requirements of your career as you move along. The course learning objectives are here, so you can kind of read through those different objectives. It is very much applied, so engaging with professionals is an important part of it. Thinking about how do you take these concepts from marketing and sales and apply those concepts to business problems to solve different problems. You are going to create professional documents. Those documents are going to be presentations, so we're going to work some on presentation skills so that your presentations are phenomenal. And we're going to work as well on reports. So you're going to do a consulting report as a team. So those different things are going to be the major deliverables that you're going to give to the clients at the end of the project. So those tasks will help develop your oral communication skills, while also giving you that tangible work product that you can refer back to when you're looking for different jobs. It definitely will involve creative and analytical decision making. So you're going to have to kind of work through some different ambiguity that's there. And then you can see some of the other related course learning objectives that are here as you kind of work through the document. Okay, so as you get into different teaching vehicles, it's going to be a mix of different teaching vehicles that I'll use because I'm trying to focus on this. How do you develop these critical thinking skills? How do you advance those skills? How do you work with ambiguity? How do you work with incomplete information? All skills that are really important for executives of all types or managers of all types or entrepreneurs for sure. So these should help you with some of those different things. The focal point is the consulting project, and I'll talk some about the consulting project. And so the course is kind of designed around that project and helping you to kind of learn information in what's called just-in-time education. You might think of it that way, just in time to complete the next project or the next part of your consulting project. Okay, there's several supplementary resources. I talked a little bit about that. And then finally, we're also going to do class discussions and weekly discussion board input. So those are kind of some of the different things. I'll post prompts, for example. So by now you've probably used Blackboard and seen some asynchronous versions of this. So this is the asynchronous part of the class. I'll post a prompt or a question, and then during the week, each week you want to look for these different prompts, and you'll see on the syllabus when they actually exist, and you'll see them as well in your assignments as you look down the assignment part. But you'll basically get a prompt, and by Monday, in this class by Tuesday at midnight. So Tuesday at midnight, you'll want to respond to that initial prompt. So I'll probably post the prompts up on Monday or so, right? So you'll have a day or more to kind of look at that prompt, think about it. But it will be related to that week's requirements or that week's readings. And then you're going to want to respond to that prompt by Tuesday at midnight. So by Tuesday at midnight, you respond to the prompt. And then you're going to, after you've responded to the prompt, I'm going to ask you to go back and find 2 classmates and respond to what their responses were to kind of build on it. And how that works will make more sense as we go along. That will kind of add up to be your contribution weekly discussion board contributions. So that's a part that you'll pick up there. In terms of required materials, you'll see in the syllabus, the next part kind of goes into, there's a course pack that's required. That course pack, I think, has 6 readings in it or somewhere along the line of 6 different readings. Those readings are going to be readings that will help you with some of the skills in the class. The first 2 are going to be background readings, one on marketing strategy, one on sales strategy, sales design. And then you're going to have another reading that's kind of a content reading that's on design thinking, and then a couple of readings that are on cases where I'm going to use different MBA level cases to show you how to do some of the analysis or some of the baseline analytics associated with consulting later in the course. Okay, so there's a text that's required. The text is the basic principles of effective consulting. So that's just kind of an outline text that will give you some of those steps. It's a real thin sort of paperback. You can get that through Amazon, and you can see some of these things are actually linked. So if you actually click on that, that would take you to Amazon. You can buy these anywhere you want. The Amazon link is there mostly so that you can confirm you're getting the right book. If you haven't, the course pack is also linked. So you'll see the link to the course pack above there as well. So you just click on that, and that will take you to the Harvard Business School publishing site. If you haven't signed up for Harvard course packs in the past, then you'll need to create an account. And it basically, the site will talk you through how to do that, and then purchase your course pack that way so that you've got the readings for the class. Okay, there are going to be all these videos. The videos are going to be posted and accessible through the course website. So in terms of like finding the videos, those are going to be in these modules that we'll have from week to week, and you'll get a good feel for that after the first week of where you find the videos and how you get to those different videos. There's 2 library kind of videos that this is talking about. There will be some that are lecture videos related to the class, but there's in terms of the library itself, there's 2 types that are there. One is a set of lectures that kind of lectures material like you would if you were doing the MBA course in marketing, and the other set is like when I teach that class, I use 50 slides to teach the marketing management class. So the other one is like 50 5-minute presentations of how you use those slides. So where those will come into play is not that you've got to know all that material before. I'm not assuming that you know all of that material in advance, but where they'll come into play is that some of those are going to be relevant to the problems that you're trying to solve, or relevant to the examples of how you might apply them in some of the consulting skills that I show you as the course goes along. So I'll refer to which specific ones you need to know as we get into that part, or as your project develops. And I realize that this, for example, customer lifetime value analysis or thinking about customer equity might be a good way to approach this project that you're working on. Those sorts of things I'll help to kind of refer you and coach you through what types of material you may want to go back and look at. Again, you may have had some exposure to some of this in previous classes at Ole Miss, and hopefully that's the case. So it won't all be new, but if it is, you'll be able to work through it and those kind of things. If you're feeling uncertain about your marketing background, you're kind of concerned about that, and you want a real quick overview of marketing, I like this book, Marketer's Toolkit. It's a great thing to go to. The 10 strategies you need to succeed. It's about $15 for a new copy, $10 for a used copy. Just a really quick overview. You can read it in a day. It's a real quick crash course or refresher of marketing. If you feel like you want some kind of overview of that. If you don't know anything about sales, and sales is new, and or even if you want to learn more about sales, there's a great video on this, or a great book called The Sales Enablement Playbook by Corey Bray and Hillman Sori, and they give you a pretty good background of sales and some of the key things in sales today. I've also got a video of that from a previous team that did the sales management course at Ole Miss, who did a great job on that, and I'll probably share that video with you as well. It's another good summary of sales. And if there are other books that come into play where I may have videos or may have reports on those, I may bring some of those back out depending on the projects that you end up pursuing and that you end up developing as different teams. Okay, the final course grade, I don't plan to use minuses and pluses. So this is basically just an A, B, C, D straight letter grade class, and the cutoffs are the traditional cutoffs at the 80, 70, 80, 90, etc. level. So that's kind of what you're going to push for. There are no extra credit opportunities, so you want to do the best you can as you get into that. Course grading, you can kind of see this chart just gives you that information that's associated with that. And then the different individual components of what's graded. You can, as I talked about the weekly discussion boards earlier, you can see that's worth about 10%. A lot of your evaluation, you're going to be evaluated by your peers because a lot of the work that you do will be on teams, and a lot of that, the only people who observe that are your team members. So you're going to want to pick team members that you can work with and work to contribute to them, and try to make sure that your team members are happy throughout the semester with the contributions that you're making to the team project. So much of the class is done outside of class and through these projects. So your team members will provide feedback. They'll actually do 15% of your grade is going to be just based on that peer evaluation. And then that peer evaluation is also going to be part of the inputs that I'm going to use. I'm going to ask for instructor inputs for my part. So you got 45% of your grade is impacted by your peer evaluation. So your teams are going to be an important component of the class, and working well with teams will be key to kind of doing well in the course itself. And the teams, I want to try to use as much self-selection, but I'm also going to try to match you to different projects based on the interest that you have as we get into the class, or as we get into the course. Okay, then if you have strong preferences for team members, then you want to let me know about that as soon as possible. We'll actually form teams in probably the second week of the course. So the team formations will happen fairly quickly. In the first week of the course, we're actually doing introduction, so you'll get a chance to kind of introduce yourself to one another very early. And you want to pay attention to those introductions because you're going to try to figure out who you want to be on teams with and those kind of things. Okay, so the deliverables, 45% of your course grade is going to be on these different deliverables. Team deliverables, so the work product that you create, there's an evaluation from me that's part of that. There's also an evaluation from the client. So the client has a full letter grade of shift. 10% is a full letter grade on how pleased the client is with the work that you do. And so where this is different is on the front end, you're going to be scoping the work and then proposing what your project will be with the client. And then you're going to be expected to kind of deliver against that proposal to a level where the client feels very satisfied. And you want it to be something good for you, so it gives you kind of bragging rights on the project that you completed for them. So that's kind of the way that's set up. And then, of course, there's an evaluation that I would have of your presentation and of the actual document that you give to them, the work product. That's about a 20-page team report at the end of the semester that you're doing that accounts for that. So you can kind of see that's a summary of the grades and how the grades kind of break down for the course. Okay, the next part, the rest of the syllabus goes into details about all of these different components that are associated with it. So if you want to read through that, you can read through some of the material that's about the components of the class. You can see this is talking about your scope statement and how long your scope statement would be, your project proposal, how long that project proposal is. Those kind of things are all part of your work product that I'm evaluating as you're going along. So the syllabus also gives more details on like the parts or the components of the proposal and the parts and the components of the final report and the presentation, so you get a feel for that. So the presentation and the final report kind of work together, as you might imagine, and will have pretty similar kind of components. One is just a written document that's a 20-page document, and the other one is a presentation that your team would do. A lot of this is likely to be on Zoom. Things may depend on how well we develop. I mean, and as well as kind of what you end up planning to do in terms of being there in person or not being there in person. But we're gonna try to figure out ways to work with people so that you can. I'll try to figure out ways to work with each one of you and your teammates. Well, I'm sure as well. Figure out how we can kind of get the presentations done where you can participate, whether it's physically in person or whether it's remote. Okay, so this is giving you all those details as you continue down. You can see some of the details that are associated with the final reports and the final presentations. And then here's more information on how the weekly discussion forums will go. And then just other policies like academic integrity policies are consistent with what you've got. It has to be original work. There will be you will in this class be doing some original research and stuff like that. So you will be researching things to try to figure out how do I address this client's problems. So you'll find a lot of stuff on the internet, but you may as well use the library to find some different stuff about what are the trends that are happening in different industries and how are these industries developing. And we'll talk about those as we get further along in the class. COVID-19 policies are in effect. You're probably seeing this kind of material on all of the syllabi that you're looking at this semester. The part of the syllabus that you're going to use the most is this part. That is basically the schedule. So once you've kind of read through it and you got a feel for it, the schedule is what you're going to use, and you'll get a good feel for that. So each week I plan to do a video that's a weekly, that's a discussion of what's coming up that particular week. So your first one will be this week 1. So week 1 is basically this whole block that's here, and that's it's basically kind of telling you what you need to cover during the week. Some of this is covered again asynchronously, so some of this you're covering by watching and reading and just getting a feel for what's there. And those types of things. And again, plan on Tuesday as being a class meeting, a physical class meeting, or one that you have to attend through Zoom synchronously, right? And then Thursday, don't plan on a class meeting on Thursdays, but you have this requirement that's online on Thursdays or a deadline on Thursdays. You can do those on Tuesdays or you can do those on Wednesdays or Thursdays in terms of like responding to the posts that your classmates get. And if your classmates post as early as Tuesday, you can go ahead and respond to those different posts after their initial responses are out there. So you've got a couple of days to kind of work through getting your weekly discussions and stuff done each week, and you'll be able to see how all of that works, I feel like, and it'll make a lot of sense as we get into the class. You'll see the class kind of goes through these different modules. As you go down the schedule, you'll see kind of some of the stuff that we're working with. The first 2 weeks has a lot of emphasis on making sure you've got some background in marketing, you have an understanding of sales. That's kind of the first couple of weeks. And then we go more into the consulting part of the class in the third week. And it is that third week is when we'll start doing client proposals. So that's when you'll hear what the client projects are and what the general presentations are from the clients that we're working with this semester. You'll also kind of we'll start talking about what is consulting and what is consulting all about. And that's really kind of your introduction of consulting. So that's where we shift much more out of the marketing and sales world and into the consulting world. And from that point, after that shift, we stay in the consulting world for the rest of the semester. So we'll talk about the consulting process in the fourth week. How do you develop a project plan? So there's a lot of planning that kind of comes into play in the course and in doing consulting projects. We then talk about some of the traditional analytics, traditional ways that consultants talk about things. All the while that you're doing this, you're developing things for the client. So here you're doing scope statements. So on the side, this is kind of your main project. And this material is your just-in-time education. So you can kind of see the main projects you're pushing along. I'm doing scope statements. We had talked about those a couple of weeks before. You can see here in week 5, we're talking about the project plan, those types of things. And that's some of the stuff that's going to go into your proposals the following week. So the way the syllabus is designed is it's designed to try to give you the information you need so that you can get your proposals done with your client, so you can get your scope statements finished. And those due dates are often on Tuesdays, right? So Tuesdays is where you have a lot of these that are due. And they're working, they're a lot of these, you want to think about these projects as they're somewhat working documents. They're being evaluated as you're going along. But the major grades and the major outcomes are at the end of the class. So a lot of the weight for this is at the end, but you have to do really well at the front to have a good finish. So you're setting up your semester in this first few weeks, or this weeks 4, 5, and 6 is where you get a lot of your semester details of what your project is kind of scoped out, and you're basically getting agreements with the clients on what you're going to do for them over what is basically a 9-week period from the time you hear their presentations to the time you do your final reports is really about 9 weeks. So then you can just see the rest of the course just kind of gets into some of the different aspects. We'll talk some about design thinking. It's just a way of doing some creativity to try to help you get through stumbling blocks that you'll get in some of these consulting projects. And then we'll talk about the feedback report and how do you kind of get your feedback report ready. That's the final report to the consultants. We'll talk about presentations as we get down towards the end of the semester so that you've got some thoughts about how to go into your presentations. And all the while that we're doing some of this coursework and material, you're actually advancing again your project. So you're doing weekly updates on your projects and advancing that project work that you committed to with the client. So in terms of the amount of time on the project, you're probably going to spend about each student will spend about 4 hours per week on the project related work. So that's kind of about the size and the scope of the project that you'll be doing. So you should be thinking about that much time that you'll be putting into it outside of some of the stuff that we're doing in the class. Okay, I hope that gives you a good introduction to what the course is, to what marketing and sales consultancy is about, and I hope you got a feel for the syllabus. If you have questions, please email me. I hope to see all of you on Tuesday, which is their first class, and look for that to be kind of the introduction. If you're not able to make it on Tuesday, I'll probably post a weekly update videos. The weekly updates in this class will probably be posted on Tuesday, so those videos are going to be like reflective of the same information that we're talking about on Tuesday. One of the things you definitely want to think about doing first week is the discussion board. And you'll see that there's an introduction that's required that you need to do on the discussion board itself. So that's a chance to introduce yourself to your classmates, to hear who your classmates are, and to start thinking about who your team members will be, because we'll start deciding that about 2 weeks from the start of the class. This is Marketing and Sales Consultancy. I'm Professor Hunter. I look forward to meeting each one of you throughout the semester. I hope I get to meet you in person. If not, I look forward to meeting you digitally and through Zoom. And we can all hope this is our last COVID semester. And if this is your last semester at Ole Miss, I hope it's a good experience to send you off into the work world with. So thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you later this week. Hotty toddy.